In the desolate wilderness, where isolation isn't just a state of mind, but a force that consumes you, one group of scientists uncovers a darkness far older than the biting winds. Join me as we dive into Hunger and the Frost, the curse of the Wendigo, where survival isn't just about battling the elements, but about something far more terrifying, lurking in the frozen shadows. The cold was relentless. It pressed in on us, an unforgiving force that seemed almost alive. We weren't prepared for this. We came to the wilderness to study the strange weather patterns and investigate the disappearances. But now, that felt like a foolish excuse to venture into a place like this. The locals had warned us, told us about the Wendigo, but none of us took it seriously. Except maybe Alex. Alex had been our meteorologist. He was the youngest on the team, a bit quiet, but brilliant. He had been excited about this mission, maybe too excited. He believed we'd find something unique in these weather patterns, something no one else had seen before. He and I had spoken into the late nights before the trip, sharing a quiet enthusiasm. But out here, under the oppressive weight of the wilderness, something had changed in him. It wasn't just the cold. He started talking about the disappearances in the region, how patterns didn't match anything that made sense. He said some of the locals, those that had gone missing, had never been found, not a trace. As the cold pressed deeper into our bones, I could see Alex's eyes starting to shift, as though he was already searching for something that wasn't there. The weather had taken a sudden turn 2 days in. Winds that seemed to come from nowhere, snow so thick it erased the sky. We hadn't been able to leave the camp, but on the morning of the third day, we woke to find Alex gone, his gear untouched, still sitting beside his cot. Panic set in quickly. We spread out, calling his name, our voices swallowed by the howling wind. It was John, our team leader, who found the tracks first. They led out into the woods, disappearing into the dense snow-covered trees. At first, I thought they were human, long, deep impressions in the snow, the length of a man's stride. There was a debate about whether we should follow them or stay by the camp. The storm could be back at any moment. David, our biologist, warned, if we follow these tracks and get caught in the snow, we could all end up like Alex. But John insisted. We need to find him, he said. We can't just leave him out there. We hesitated, but in the end, we went. None of us could ignore the growing fear that maybe Alex hadn't left voluntarily. As we pushed deeper into the woods, the snow closed in and the wind screamed through the trees like something alive. It felt as though the forest itself was watching us, waiting. David finally broke the silence, bringing up what we had all been thinking but hadn't said aloud. The Wendigo. They say it can take a man, he said, his breath coming in ragged bursts. Turn him into something else. Something hungry. John snorted. Come on, David. You seriously buying into all that? David's eyes were wide, fear creeping in around the edges. It's not just a monster, John. It's the spirit of the cold. Of hunger. The locals believe it can make you lose yourself. Make you eat human flesh, I finished for him. The words hung in the frozen air. David nodded slowly. That's the legend. But there's more. Some say it's not just physical. Some say it can get inside your mind, make you see things that aren't there, make you hear things. John shook his head. We're scientists. Let's focus on finding Alex. We followed the tracks for what felt like hours, but the deeper we went, the more the snow and wind seemed to warp the world around us. The trees twisted, casting shadows that moved when we weren't looking. And then, just as quickly as they'd appeared, the tracks stopped. Alex was nowhere to be found. The storm hit us fast and we were forced to take shelter under a rocky overhang. We tried to stay warm, huddled together, but the cold had a way of getting inside your head. The wind carried whispers with it, low and familiar. At first I thought it was just the storm, but then I heard my own voice. Come this way. I shot up, heart racing. The others didn't seem to notice. Was it the cold, the isolation, or something worse? I couldn't tell. And that was when I saw them. Figures at the edge of the trees, just out of sight. They were watching us. David had been the first to crack. He kept muttering about the hunger, about how it gnawed at him, and how he couldn't sleep. He was eating more than any of us, yet he seemed to be shrinking, as though something was consuming him from the inside out. Then one night, we woke up to find him gone. This time, there were no tracks. He simply vanished. He's feeding, John muttered, his face pale. That thing out there. It's him now. But David wasn't the only one hearing voices. I had heard them too. Voices calling my name, telling me to come closer, to feed. The cold seemed to blur the lines between reality and madness that was creeping in. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw blood. I tasted it. The hunger was everywhere, and it wasn't just physical. It was something else, something deep. John was next. I woke in the middle of the night to the sound of crunching snow. I stepped outside the tent and saw him, standing at the tree line, staring into the woods. "John?" I whispered, but he didn't respond. His eyes were wide, his face blank, and his hands were covered in blood. I wanted to scream, to run, but my feet wouldn't move. The wind was howling, louder now, like it was trying to pull me in. And then, through the darkness, I saw it. Not a creature, not a man, but something in between. A shifting mass of limbs and shadows, its eyes glowing like cold fire. It stared at me, and for the first time, I understood. The hunger wasn't physical. It was something far worse. The storm swallowed us. I don't know how long I wandered through the snow, the wind screaming in my ears. The world twisted, and the trees seemed to shift, warping around me. I could hear Alex, David, and John calling to me, their voices blending with the wind. And then I found the body. It was still fresh, the blood still warm, staining the snow. I don't know how it happened, but before I knew it, I was tearing into the flesh, my hands moving on their own. The hunger, it was all I could feel. It consumed me, just like the Wendigo. I don't remember how they found me. The rescue team said I was alone, babbling about the cold, about the hunger, about something else. I don't remember what I said. I don't remember much of anything. But I can still hear them. Alex, David, John. Their voices are still out there, whispering in the wind, calling me back. And the hunger? It's still there, gnawing at me, always there. Thank you so much for watching Hunger in the Frost, The Curse of the Wendigo. If you enjoyed this chilling journey, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the story, and don't forget to subscribe to Horror Librum for more terrifying tales. Your support helps keep the shadows lurking and the stories coming. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and beware of what lies in the cold.